Hello and welcome guys to a new episode on SportPredictorFanatic. Today we're going to predict all the matches that are going to be played today in the Europa League and in the Conference League. In the Europa League there are 18 matches and in the Conference League there are 16. In the Europa League we'll have 2 bets and in the Conference League as well. So after 9 matches in the Europa League, I have a betting. Those are the early matches played at like 18:45, I think it is. At least my time, 18:45. And then I also do one of the second matches and also a different betting for that. And the same with the Conference League matches, but those are 16, so 8 and 8. So yeah, let's just get straight into it because I think it's going to be a long video. But yeah, let's get into it. The first match that is going to be played is Ferencváros playing against Tottenham. Ferencváros lost their Europa League match last week with 2-1 against Anderlecht. Last weekend though, they won a 3-0 against Puskás Academy, who are second in the league behind themselves. Tottenham won their first Europa League match with 3-0 against Karabakh. Last weekend, they also won 3-0 against Manchester United. With that, they are now on a 4-match winning streak. Ferencváros and Tottenham have never played each other in the past. I of course think that Tottenham will win this matchup. That they have the better team and are in a good form. But Ferencváros have not lost a game yet at home, but yeah, that aside, I think Tottenham should just win this matchup. Then we have Hoffenheim playing against Dynamo Kiev. Hoffenheim started their Europa League campaign with a draw against Midtjylland last week. Last weekend they lost 4-3 as well against Werder Bremen. They were 3-0 up in that match, but after 12 minutes, but due to a red card in the 18th minute, Werder Bremen could make the comeback. With that, Hoffenheim are now winless in the last 4 games. Dynamo Kiev has started their Europa League campaign by losing 3-0 to Lazio. Last weekend, they won a 3-0 against Levi Birach. Hoffenheim and Dynamo Kiev have never played against each other in the past. And I think Hoffenheim will be the first winner they're not in the best form, but I still think they have the better team. But Dynamo Kiev hasn't lost a away game yet this season, so it will be a hard match. But yeah, I think Hoffenheim will get the W here. Then we have Lazio playing against Nice. Lazio started this Europa League season with a 3-0 win over Dynamo Kiev, as just said. Last weekend, they also got a win over Torino 3-2. Torino were at that moment the number 1 in the Serie A. Nice started their Europa League season with a draw against Real Sociedad. Last weekend they also got a draw against Lens. Lazio and Nice in the past have played each other 3 times. In 2013 there was a friendly match between them where Lazio won. In 2017 they met in the Europa League group stage where both matches were won by Lazio. Both teams have been quite good this season, but not really that consistent. But Lazio has not lost a home match this season after the 3 times they have played at home. Nice, from the 4 away games, have won 1, drew 1 and lost 2. So because of that and just the fact that I think Lazio do have got the better team here, I think Lazio will get the win. Then we have Maccabi Tel Aviv playing against Midtjylland. Maccabi lost their Europa League opener with 2-1 against Braga. Last weekend they also drew 1-1 against Ironi Tiberas. And with that, Maccabi dropped their first points in the league after 5 matches. Midtjylland drew their first Europa League game with 1-1 against Hoffenheim. Last weekend they did get a win in the league with 3-1 against Freiburg. With that, they are now on a 6-game unbeaten streak. Maccabi and Midtjylland have never played each other before. I do think Midtjylland have a stronger team, and that with the draw of Maccabi this weekend, also the slightly better form. But Maccabi Tel Aviv have been good at home, with 5 out of the 6 last games at home being won. And the other match was actually a draw, so they're also unbeaten. But I think Midtjylland will be too strong for them. So I'm going for Midtjylland win there. Then it is Olympiacos playing against Braga. Olympiacos have lost their first match in the Europa League last weekend with a 2-0 against Olympique Lyon. Last weekend they won a 2-0 against Altromitos. Braga have won their first matchup in the Europa League with 2-1 against Maccabi Tel Aviv. Last weekend they also won 4-0 against Rio Ave, and with that they are now on a 3-game win streak. Braga and Olympiacos have played each other once before in 2012, where it ended in a draw, and it was a friendly match. Olympiacos this season haven't lost at home yet after the 3 games they have played, but also Braga hasn't lost in an away match this season, which they had 6 already this season. And I do think Braga also have the stronger team, and with that will get the win. Then we have Karabakh playing against Malmo. Karabakh lost their Europa League opener against Tottenham with 3-0. Last weekend they won 3-2 against Sabah Baku. Malmo also lost their first Europa League match against Rangers with 2-0. Last weekend they won 2-0 against Mjällby. Karabakh and Malmo have never played each other before. Karabakh has won their 3 last matches at home, whilst Malmo is struggling away with no wins in the last 4 matches away. I think Malmo do have the slightly better team, but Karabakh with the home advantage will hold it to a draw. So yeah, a draw for this matchup. And then we have Real Sociedad playing against Anderlecht. Real Sociedad drew the first Europa League game with 1-1 against Nice. Last weekend they finally won 3-0 against Valencia. I say finally because this was their first win after 6 matches after having 6 matches with no win. Anderlecht won the Europa League opener with 2-1 against Ferencváros. Last weekend they drew though 1-1 against Dender. Real Sociedad and Anderlecht have never played each other in the past. And as said, Real Sociedad are not in the greatest form at the moment, but did look like pretty darn good this weekend. This one was also their first home win this season after 4 matches at home. The other 2 matches were all losses. Anderlecht have been playing really good away this season. They are still unbeaten away after 5 matches. So I think with that it could be a really close match. But I think Real Sociedad with their team and now with that win last weekend, I think they should get the win here again. Then we have RFS playing against Galatasaray. RFS lost their first match in the Europa League with 4-1 against FCSB. Last weekend they won 2-0 against Jelgava. Galatasaray won their Europa League match with 3-1 against PAOK, and last weekend drew 3-3 against Kasimpasa, where they gave their 3-0 lead away, which of course isn't this Galatasaray's in the league. With that, Galatasaray though is now 6 games unbeaten with 1 draw last weekend, and the other 5 games were a win for Galatasaray. RFS and Galatasaray have never played each other in the past, and I think Galatasaray have the better team, are in a good form. Although RFS, must be said, have only lost 1 game at home in the last 20 matches at home. But yeah, as said, I think Galatasaray, stronger team, I think they will win this matchup. Then it is Slavia Prague against Ajax. Slavia Prague won their Europa League opener with 2-0 against Ludogorets. Last weekend they also won 4-0 against Bohemians. With that, they are now on a 6-match winning streak. Ajax also won the opener with 4-0 against Besiktas. Last weekend, they also won with 2-0 against RKC Waalwijk. With that, Ajax are now also on a 6-match unbeaten streak. Slavia Prague and Ajax have played each other 3 times in the past. They played each other 2 times in 2007 in Champions League qualification, where Slavia Prague won both matches, and with that, of course, went through, another round through. And the third match was in 2008 in the UEFA Cup, where it ended in a 2-2 draw with the 90-minute equalizer actually being scored by none other than Luis Suarez, of course, a very known name. Slavia Prague have won all 7 matches at home this season, and with that have proven to be really, really strong this season at home. But I think Ajax are, of course, a really strong team and could pose like an actual real challenge for Slavia Prague here. I also think Ajax do have the stronger team, and with that will get the win here. Then we're going into the first betting part of the video. So what I'm going for is the following: is 6 matches on trebles. So there are 20 trebles to be made. With that, I'm going to put €5 in this one. So 25 cents on the 20 trebles makes €5. And the 6 matches are Ajax to win their matchup. The odds for that is 3.65. Lazio to win their matchup. The odds for that is 1.83. Then Braga to win their matchup. The odds for that is 3.40. Then Karabakh against Malmo to be a draw. The odds for that is 3.70. And Hoffenheim to win their matchup. The odds for that is 1.99. I don't know. Have I said Midtjylland with a win? The odds for that is 2.31. I don't know if I said it one, but I'm going to say that right now. So those are the 6 matches. I'm going for them. So let's see if we can make something happen there. I hope so, of course. But let's get further into Europa League. The next match is Athletic de Club de Bilbao. They're playing against AZ Alkmaar. Bilbao drew their first Europa League game with 1-1 against AS Roma. Last weekend they also drew 1-1 against Sevilla. With that, Bilbao are now 5 games unbeaten. AZ won their league opener with 3-2, but last weekend lost 2-1 against Utrecht, and with that actually got their first loss of this season. Bilbao and AZ have played each other 2 times before, in 2015 where they played each other in the Europa League group stage, where AZ won at home and the other match actually ended in a draw. AZ have been playing really well in away matches this season with 3 wins and 1 draw, and they are still beaten in away matches with that, of course, this season. I think Bilbao do have the stronger team here though, and I actually think this will be a really close match, but I think it will end up in favor of Athletic de Club de Bilbao. Also due to them having the home advantage. Then we have Besiktas playing against Eintracht Frankfurt. Besiktas lost their first Europa League match with 4-0 against Ajax. Last weekend they did get a win though with 3-0 against Kayserispor. Frankfurt surprisingly drew their first matchup with 3-3 against Plzen. A match where they were 3-1 up until late goals in the 86th and the 93rd minute for Plzen. Last weekend, Frankfurt won 4-2 though against Holstein Kiel. With that, they are now unbeaten in the last 5 games with 4 wins and 1 draw. Besiktas and Frankfurt have never played each other before, but I do think Eintracht again have the stronger team here. And although Besiktas have won all 4 matches at home this season, I think really Frankfurt needs a win, especially after their draw last week. And I think the class difference is too big, so Eintracht Frankfurt is going to win. Then we have Elfsborg playing against AS Roma. Elfsborg have lost their first match in the Europa League with 3-2 against AZ. Last weekend they won 3-1 though against Kalmar. AS Roma drew their first match in the Europa League with 1-1 against Athletic de Club de Bilbao. Last weekend they did get a win though with 2-1 over Venezia. With that, they are now 5 matches unbeaten with 3 draws and 2 wins. Elfsborg and AS Roma have never played each other before, and I of course think that AS Roma have got the stronger team here, although Elfsborg did really surprise me last week against AZ. I thought they were going to be way worse, but yeah, I still think the class difference is too big here and AS Roma will get their W. Then we have Porto playing against Manchester United. Porto have lost their first Europa League match with 3-2 against Bodo Glimt. Last weekend they did get a 4-0 win against Arauca. Manchester United, of course, drew the first game in the Europa League against Twente. Last weekend, of course, they lost 3-0 against Tottenham. With that, they are actually now winless in the last 3 games. Porto and Manchester United have played each other 7 times in the past, with 6 times being in a competitive manner. The first 2 times were in 1997 in the Champions League quarter-final, where Manchester United won at home and then held the lead away with a draw. In 2004, they also met twice in the Champions League, but 1 round earlier, where Porto first won their home match and then held the lead away with a draw. That year, Porto also did win the Champions League, so that is great for them. Then the last 2 times they met each other were in 2009 in the quarterfinal of the Champions League once again, where the first match ended in a draw, but then Manchester United won the away match. Manchester United that year also became the runner-up, so they became second. I think it was behind Barcelona, but I'm not too sure about that. Porto this season are looking really good at home, with winning all 4 matches at home. And I actually think with a struggling Manchester United, they make a real chance here. Although, of course, they did play 3-2 against Bodo Glimt last week. I still think they can win against Manchester United. And I think actually Porto are going to win. So I'm going to go for Porto. Then we have PAOK playing against FCSB. PAOK have lost their first match in the Europa League with 3-1 against Galatasaray. Last weekend they also lost with 1-0 against Aris. FCSB won their first Europa League match with 4-1 against Arafat. And last weekend also get a win with 1-0 against Sepsi SF George. With that, they are now unbeaten in the last 6 games with 4 wins, 2 draws. PAOK and FCB have played each other 3 times in the past. All 3 were friendlies where both won 1 game and the other one ended in a draw. The last one was in 2023, so that one ended in a draw. So they are perfectly balanced with a 1-1-1 record. Well, I don't know a lot about these 2 teams, but I would say that PAOK have got a stronger team here. Although FCSB have got the stronger team, I think PAOK also with, of course, the home advantage would get the win right here. Then we're going to Plzeň playing against Ludogorets. Plzeň drew the first Europa League match, as said, with 3-3 against Frankfurt. They, of course, did it with 2 goals in the last 10 minutes, which was a really good comeback for them. Ludogorets also won their first Europa League match with 2-0 against Slavia Prague. Last weekend they also won with 2-0 against Botev Vrača. Plzeň and Ludogorets have played each other 3 times in the past. The first one was a friendly in 2016 where Ludogorets won. But also in 2016 they played each other twice in the Champions League qualification final, where Ludogorets won at home and then they held Plzeň to a draw. And with that, Ludogorets went into the Champions League this season. And I think with the bad form that Plzeň are in, that Ludogorets will get the win here, especially now that they're on a 6-match winning streak in away matches. And although Plzeň are also unbeaten in the last 7 home matches, I still think, with the form of these 2, I think Ludogorets will get the W. Then we have Rangers playing against Olympique Lyon. Rangers won the first match in the Europa League with 2-0 against Malmo. Last weekend they also beat Hibernian with 1-0. With that, they are now on a 4-match winning streak. Lyon also won their first game with 2-0 against Olympiacos. Last weekend they also won with 2-1 against Toulouse. Rangers and Lyon have played each other 5 times in the past. In 2007 they played each other twice in the Champions League group stage. Both times the away team won 3-0. In 2020 they played each other in a friendly where Rangers won the matchup, and then in 2021 they played each other 2 times in the Europa League group stage where Lyon once again won away, but then the other match ended in a draw. I think Lyon have got the better team here and have found their form just in time. I think just in time to win this matchup. So I think I'm going to go with Lyon. Then we have Royal Union playing against Bodo Glimt. Royal Union lost their Europa League opener with 2-1 against Fenerbahce. Last weekend they won though 3-0 against Kortrijk. And with that they are now, they actually ended their 5-match no-win drought. So Bodo Glimt won their first Europa League match, surprisingly actually with 3-2 against Porto last week. And last weekend they won 4-0 against Kristiansund. Bodo Glimt and Royal Union have never played each other before in the past, and I think Bodo Glimt are the stronger team here, especially with the form of Royal Union this season, which isn't really good. So yeah, with that I'm actually going to go for a win for Bodo Glimt. Then we have Twente playing against Fenerbahce. Of course, Twente drew their first match with a 1-1 against Manchester United. Last weekend they also did get a win with 1-0 against NAC. With that, they are now 5 matches unbeaten with 3 wins and 2 draws. Fenerbahce have won their first Europa League match with 2-1 against Royal Union. Last weekend they won 2-0 against Antalyaspor. Twente and Fenerbahce have played each other 5 times in the past. The first 2 were in 2009 in the Europa League group stage, where both times the away team won. In 2011 they played each other in a friendly where Twente won, and then the last 2 were in the Conference League qualification match final as well, where Fenerbahce won both matches and with that of course have qualified. Twente would of course like some sweet revenge, but I think it's not going to be easy for that. Twente do have a good home record this season with all 5 games unbeaten, 3 draws and 2 wins. But I do think Fenerbahce have got the better team and they are not doing bad either in away matches with only 1 loss in the 5 matches this season. With the other 4 matches where it only was 1 draw and 3 wins for Fenerbahce. And because of that, and just like I said, the class of Fenerbahce, I think Fenerbahce will get the win. So, let's get into the betting part. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put money on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matches. I'm going to put 20 cents on the doubles. There are 15 doubles, and 10 cent. And 10 cents on the triples, and I think there are 20 triples, and with that in total it will be 50 euros. 5 euros, Jesus. But the matches where I'm going to bet on are Fenerbahce to win their matchup, the odds for that is 2.46. Frankfurt to win their matchup, the odds for that is 2.48. Then Porto to win their matchup, the odds for that is 2.75. Ludogorets to win their matchup, the odds for that is 5. Then Olympique Lyon to win their matchup, the odds for that is 2.70. Then Bodo Glimt to win their matchup, the odds for that is 3.70. So those are the matches I'm going to be bet on the late matches of the Europa League. And with that, we have predicted the Europa League this day and also this whole week. And then let's get into the Conference League. As said, 60 matches, so let's get into it. First, we have Cercle Brugge playing against St. Gallen. Cercle Brugge have made it into the Conference League by losing in the second round of the Europa League qualifying. But they did win in the final of the Conference League qualification match. In the Europa League, they first beat Kilmarnock with 2-1, then lost against Molde with 3-1, but in the Conference League qualification won 7-5 and with that have qualified. Last weekend, they drew their match against Sint-Truiden. With that, they are also shared second to last with only 8 points from 9 games in the league. While St. Gallen have qualified for the Conference League by winning all 3 qualifying rounds. They first beat Tobol with 5-1, then won 4-3 against Slask Wroclaw, and then beat Trabzonspor on penalties. Last weekend, they lost their match though against Iverdon with 1-0, and with that they are 5th on 13 points after 8 games. Cercle Brugge and St. Gallen have never played each other in the past. And although St. Gallen haven't had the best preparation match before this, I think they're still in a better form than Cercle Brugge at the moment, as they are doing pretty shite in the league. And because of that, I'm actually going to go for a win for St. Gallen. Then, Dynamo Minsk playing against Hearts. Dynamo Minsk have had a long way to qualify for the Conference League. First, they were in the Champions League qualifier, where they first won 1-0 against Punic Yerevan, but then lost 2-1 against Ludogorets. With that, they came into the Europa League qualifier, where they first beat Lincoln Red Imps with 3-1, but then lost 2-0 against Anderlecht. With that, they came into the Conference League. Dynamo Minsk have won their match last weekend, though, with 2-0 against Islog, and with that are second in the league with 47 points from 20 matches. Notable though, first place has 3 points more, but also played 3 more games, so Dynamo Minsk are basically first. Hearts, their opponents Hearts, have only had to do 1 qualifying match. This was in the Europa League, where they lost 2-0 against Plutsen, and with that came into the Conference League. Last weekend, Hearts drew against Ross County, and with that only got their 2nd point after 8 games, and with that are lost. Hearts this season have not won a match yet. Dynamo Minsk and Hearts have never played each other in the past, and I think with the form of these two, I mean, we kind of have to go with Dynamo Minsk. I mean, there's no other option. So let's do that. Then we have Astana playing against TSC. Astana have qualified for the Conference League by winning 3 qualifying matches. They first won 2-1 against Milsami and then won 8-2 against Hunedoara. The last match they won was 3-2. Last weekend was 3-2 against Bran. Last match they won 3-2 against Bran, but they also played last weekend with 1-1 against Zenis. With that, they are now 7 matches unbeaten with 5 wins and 2 draws. And with that, Astana are also 5th in the league with 31 points from 18 matches. They do have still 2 games in hand, and with that are still like level with number 1. TSC only had 1 qualifying match, which was in the Europa League, where TSC lost 8-1 against Maccabi Tel Aviv. Last weekend they did get a win with 2-1 against Kubarariki. With that, they are now 4th in the league with 70 points from 10 games. Astana and TSC have never played each other in the past, although Astana at home have won the last 7 matches, and because of that I'm going to go for an Astana win here. Then we have Heidenheim playing against Ljubljana. Heidenheim have qualified for the Conference League by beating Häcken 5-3 in the qualification. Last weekend they won 2-0 against Mainz. With that, they are on the 6th place with 9 points from 5 games. Ljubljana did qualify by beating 3 teams in the qualification. They first beat Policia Żytomir with 4-1, then beat Sheriff Tiraspol with 4-0, and then beat Rijeka with 6-1. Last weekend they also got a win with 2-0 over Primorje, and with that are first with 22 points from 10 games. And with that, they are also still unbeaten this season, which is pretty impressive. Heidenheim and Ljubljana have never played each other before, but I think Heidenheim, of course, are the stronger team and should get the win here, especially with them playing at home. Then we have Legia playing against Betis. Legia have made it into the Conference League by defeating 3 teams in the qualifying rounds. They first beat Carnafon with 11-0, then won 4-3 against Brøndby, and last week beat Drita with 3-0. Last weekend they drew 1-1 against Gornik Zabrze. With that, they're 7th with 15 points from 10 games. Betis have qualified by defeating one team in the qualification. This team was Krivbas, and they won against them with 5-0. Last weekend, Betis also won with a 1-0 against Espanyol. Betis with that are now 8th with 12 points from 8 games. Legia and Betis have never played each other in the past. I of course think Betis have just got a stronger team. And Legia has not won their last 3 matches. So with that, I think Betis should quite easily get this win. So yeah, I'm going for Betis. Then we have Molde playing against Larne. Molde have qualified for the Conference League as they failed basically they've reached the Conference League by failing to qualify for the Europa League qualification. They did first win in the Europa League qualification against Silkeborg with 5-4, then won against Cerkelburger with 3-1, but then lost on penalties in the last round against Elsborg. Last weekend, they did get a window with 5-3 against Tromsø, and with that are third on 44 points from 24 matches. Larne did qualify for the Conference League by first failing to qualify for the Champions League, but then winning 2 matches in the Conference League qualification. They first lost in the Champions League qualification against RFS with 7-0, then won on penalties against Balkani in the Conference League, and then won 4-3 against Lincoln Red Imps 4-3. Last weekend, they also won with 3-1. On this Tuesday, so earlier this week, they also won a cup games against H&W Welder with 2-1. In the league, they are currently 5th with 14 points from 10 games. At the minute, they are on a 4-match winning streak and a 6 matches unbeaten streak with 5 wins and 1 draw. Molde and Larne have never played each other in the past, but I actually think this will be a close match. Where the home team will win despite Larne not losing their last 5 away matches. But yeah, I'm going to go for Molde as I do think they've got the stronger squad. Then we have Noah playing against Mlada Boleslav. Noah have qualified for the Conference League by defeating 4 rounds of qualifying, which is pretty impressive. They first beat Shikandia with 4-1, then beat Shlima with 7-0, then beat AAK Athens with 3-2, and finally beat Ruzomberok with 4-3. Last weekend, Noah did lose though against Urarte. With that, Noah are now 6th in the league with 10 points after 6 games. Although they do have played 1, 2, or 3 games less than the other teams in the league. Mlada Boleslav have made it into the Conference League by defeating 3 teams for the qualifying, also pretty impressive. The first win was over Transinvest with 3-0, then they beat H. Bir Shiva with 5-3, and then they beat Pax with 5-2. Last weekend they did get a draw though against Plutzen, and with that are now 10th in the league with 11 points from 9 games. Noah and Mlada Boleslav have never played each other in the past. And I'm actually going to go for a Noah win here. Because I think their form is better and also the form at home is really good. But I think a 9-match winning streak. And the fact that Mlada Boleslav has not won in their last 3 matches, I think Noah has a fair chance to win this. So I'm going to go for Noah. Then we have Omonia playing against Vikingur Reykjavik. Omonia have qualified for the Conference League by defeating winning 3 qualifying rounds. They first beat Torbido Kutaisi with 5-2, then they beat Vehevar with 3-0, and then beat Zira with 6-1. The last weekend they also won with 3-1 against AAL Limassol. With that they are 2nd in the league with 12 points from 5 games. Vikingur have qualified for the Conference League by, basically not winning in the Champions League qualification and then winning their 3 Conference League qualifiers. They first lost to Shamrock Rovers in the Champions League with 2-1. Then they beat Ignacia with 2-1 in the Conference League. Then beat Flora with 3-2. And finally they beat Santa Coloma with 5-0. Last weekend they won 3-2 against Valur. And with that are first in the championship group in the league. With 55 points from 24 games. Ammonia and Vikingur have never played against each other in the past. And Ammonia have been playing really well at home with the last 7 matches. They've won the last 6 matches and the last 7 matches being undefeated. I think because of that and the fact that they play really well at home, with that fact, I think Ammonia are going to get the W. Okay, so those were the early matches being played in the Conference League today. I've got a betting thing for that. I've got 6 matches. Out of those 8, I've put it on trebles. So there are 20 trebles to be made from those 6 matches. I put 25 cents on them, so €5 in total. The matches are Heidenheim to win their matchup, the odds for that is 1.59. St. Gallen to win their matchup, the odds for that is 3.25. Dynamo Minsk to win their matchup, the odds for that is 2.90. Astana to win their matchup, the odds for that is 1.73. Noah to win their matchup, the odds for that is 2.70. Betis to win their matchup, the odds for that is 1.77. So yeah. With that, let's get into the late matches of the Conference League. And with that, the last 8 matches this evening. So yeah, let's get into it. We first have Borac Banja Luka playing against Panathinaikos. Borac Banja Luka are in the Conference League as they failed to qualify for the Champions League or Europa League. In the first round of Champions League, they won with penalties against Ignatia, but then did lose 4-2 against PAOK, and with that came into the Europa League qualifier. Where they first beat Klavsik in the extra time, but then lost the match against Ferencváros on penalties. Last weekend they did get a 2, and with that, of course, they qualified for the Conference League. But last weekend they get a 2-0 win against Radnik Bijeljina. With that, they are 5th now in the league with 13 points from 6 games. Although, there must be said, they've also played 1, 2 or 3 games less than the other teams in the league. Panathinaikos have qualified for the Conference League, also by losing their Europa League qualifier, but then in the Conference League winning their qualifier. In the Europa League, they first beat Botev Plovdiv with 6-1, but then lost against Ajax on penalties. But they then actually qualified by defeating Lens with 3-2. Last weekend they did get a loss though with 2-0 against AEK Athens, and with that are now 8th in the league with 8 points from 6 games. Borac Banja Luka and Panathinaikos have never played against each other in the past, and I think Panathinaikos are the stronger team here and should get the win, although I don't think it's going to be easy. Then we have Chelsea playing against Ghent. Chelsea have qualified for the Conference League by beating Servette 3-2 in the qualification round. Last weekend they won 4-2 against Brighton as well. With that, they are now 4th in the league with 13 points from 6 games, and they are now on a 4-match winning streak and a 5-match unbeaten streak. Ghent have qualified by beating 3 teams in the qualifying. They first beat Vikingur with 7-1. They then beat Silkeborg in the extra time, and then they beat Partizan with 2-1. Last weekend they also got a win with 3-0 against Leuven. With that, they are now 3rd in the league with 16 points from 9 games. Chelsea and Ghent have never played each other. I of course think that Chelsea have the better team here, and although not the full first squad as registered for the Conference League, I still think they have a great team here. And I think with this form they will get the win here quite easy. Then we have Copenhagen playing against Jagiellona. Copenhagen have qualified for the Conference League by beating 3 teams in the qualifying. They first beat the Magpies with 8-1. They then beat Ostrava on penalties. And that last one against Kilmarnock with 3-1. Last weekend they also won with 2-1 against Veje. With that they are now second in the league with 20 points from 10 games. Jagiellona are in the Conference League as they failed to qualify for the Champions League and the Europa League. In the Champions League qualification they first won against Panevėžys with 7-1. They then lost against Bodo Glimt with 5-1. But then in the Europa League qualification, they also lost with 7-1 against Ajax. Last weekend, they did get a 1-0 win. And of course, with that, qualified, by the way, for the Conference League. Last weekend, they got a 1-0 win against Piast Gliwice. With that, they are second in the league with 21 points from 10 games. Copenhagen and Jagiellona have never played against each other in the past. And I think Copenhagen have got the better team, are in this around the same form as Jagiellona, and with that, and the home advantage, of course, with Copenhagen, I think Copenhagen will get the W here. Then we have Fiorentina playing against TNS. Fiorentina have qualified for the Conference League by defeating Puskás Academy on penalties. Last weekend, they got a 0-0 draw against Empoli, and with that, Fiorentina are now 11th with 7 points from 6 games. TNS have qualified for the Conference League after a long road. They first were in the Champions League qualification, where they won the first match with 4-1 against Desic. Then they lost against Ferencváros with 7-1. With that, they came into the Europa League qualification, where they lost against Petrokuk with 1-0. With that, they came in the Conference League qualification, where they beat Panevėžys with 3-0. Last weekend, TNS won 6-1 against Newton. With that, they are 5th in the league with 15 points for 7 games. But they have played 3 matches less than the other teams in the league. So, they're not really 5th. Fiorentina and TNS have never played each other before. And I think Fiorentina has got the better team. And they are looking great at home with this season being undefeated. And the last time they actually lost at home was on the 30th of March this year. So a couple of months ago. So yeah, I'm going to go for a Fiorentina win right here. Then we have Lask playing against Djurgården. Lask are in the Conference League as they failed to qualify for the Europa League. They only had one qualifying round, which they lost 2-1 against FCSB. Last weekend, they drew 1-1 against Rapid Vienna. With that, they are now 11th in the league with 7 points from 8 games. Djurgården have qualified for the Conference League by winning all 3 qualifying rounds. They first won against Niederkorn with 3-1. They then won 4-2 against Ilves. And the last round won 2-0 against Maribor. Last weekend, they did get a draw with 1-1 against Vanamo. With that, they are second in the league with 46 points from 25 games. Lask and Djurgården have never played each other before, and I think Djurgården will win this match as Lask are having a pretty bad season this season. So yeah, I'm actually going to go for Djurgården here. Then we have Lugano playing HGK. Lugano are in the Conference League as they failed to qualify for the Champions League and the Europa League. In the Champions League, they lost in the first round against Fenerbahce with 6-4. Then in the Europa League, they won against Partizan in the extra time. But in the final round, they lost 8-4 against Besiktas. Last weekend, they did get a win though against Winterthur. With that, they are now 3rd in the league, but on the same points as the first place with 70 points from 8 games. And now 5 games, they are unbeaten. HGK have qualified for the Conference League by first losing the Champions League qualification, but then winning their matches in the Conference League qualification. In the Champions League, they first lost 4-1 against Panevėžys. In the Conference League, they first won against Desic on penalties and then won 4-3 against Klavsik. Last weekend, they got a 1-0 loss against Ilves. With that, they are 3rd in the league with 45 points from 25 games. Lugano and HDK have never played each other before, but I think I gotta go for Lugano as they have the better team, I think. They have the home advantage. So yeah, I'm going to go for Lugano. Then let's go to Petro Club against Papos. Petroclub are in the Conference League as they failed to qualify for the Champions League and the Europa League. In the Champions League, they first beat Ordabasi with 1-0, but then lost 2-1 against Apoel. Then in the Europa League, they first won with 1-0 against TNS, but then lost with 6-1 against Ludogorets. And with that, they came into the Conference League. Last weekend, they got a 2-1 win over Milsami, and with that are 4th in the league with 11 points from 7 matches. Papos have qualified for the Conference League by first losing in the Europa League qualification and then winning in the last 3 rounds of the Conference League qualification. In the Europa League, they first lost with 8-2 against Elfsborg. In the Conference League, they first won against Zalgiris in the extra time, then won again in the extra time against CSKA Sofia, and then won 3-1 against Cluj. Last weekend, they drew 1-1 against Aris, and with that are now on 13 points from 5 games. And with that, they are first. Petroclub and Pauwels have never played against each other, and I honestly don't know what to do with this matchup. I just don't know a lot about these teams, and because Papos are doing better in the league, I will go for them to win. So yeah, I'm going to go for Papos. Then we have Shamrock Rovers playing as Apoel. Shamrock Rovers are in the Conference League as they failed to qualify for the Champions League and the Europa League. In the Champions League, they first beat Vikingur Reykjavik with 2-1, but they then lost 6-2 against Sparta Prague. In the Europa League, they first beat Celje in the extra time, but then lost against PAOK with 6-0, and with that are in the Conference League. Last weekend, they did also get a loss with 3-0 against St. Patrick's, and with that are 3rd in the league with 49 points from 32 matches. Apoel have also qualified for the Conference League as they failed to qualify for the Champions and Europa League. First, they won in the Champions League with 2-1 against Petroclub. They then lost 2-0 against Slovan Bratislava, and then in Europa League, they lost on penalties. Apoel last weekend drew 0-0, and with that are 4th in the league with 10 points after 5 matches. Apoel are also unbeaten in the last 5 matches with 1 draw and 4 wins. Shamrock and Apoel have never played each other in the past, and I think Apoel does have the stronger team here, and because of that I'm going to go for an Apoel win. So yeah, now let's get into the betting part. I'm going once again for 6 out of the 8 matches. I'm going to go for trebles again, so 0.25 cents on all trebles, 20 trebles, which makes €5. And with that, in total of this whole video, we've made 20, 10 on the Europa League, 10 on the Conference League. But these are the 6 matches that I'm going to be bet on the late line matches of the Conference League. The matches are Copenhagen to win their matchup, the odd for that is 1.51. Panathinaikos to win their matchup, the odd for that is 1.65. Djurgården to win their matchup, the odd for that is 5. Then Lugano to win their matchup, the odd for that is 1.44. Papos to win their matchup, the odd for that is 1.87. And Apoel to win their matchup, the odd for that is 1.98. So with that, we have finally come to the end of this video. We've predicted all matches, so let's see how good we do. But for now, I want to thank you all for watching. Please have a good day, and I will see you.